Good day, everyone. We're live on Natalya Kondratyevas channel. Hi,
Ladies and
everyone.
gentlemen,
Today's topic is really interesting. It's a bit, I think, scientific. Yeah, Natasha, something like
well,
that.
that's it. Well, maybe it's scientific, but I just decided that, I talk so much about what's visible. Sometimes it's visible or how important something is there to see and feel. It just occurred to me that I need to explain how to see it or start seeing it if there is such a request. You need to
Yes, thank
feel
you.
this somehow.
I might voice the topic. We formulated it like this: the development of perception. What are these subtle informational planes and what could interfere with them?
Well, first of all, we'll see how it goes. Some might see, some might feel, some might be, I don't know, but it's not necessary. Sometimes thoughts just come, like that formulated thoughts, just like a stream. And there are a few, important points in this whole process. First is motivation. You need to understand why you need it and why it is important for you. Motivation also shouldn't come from the head. You should sit down, think it through, and decide from the heart if you really need it. Because learning to truly see, you can, but then separating them will be hard, like really hard. Not so. That's the first thing. Second, this thing is always in motion. So, of course, you can initially use it for personal purposes. Makes sense. To improve your personal life, professional life, and generally understand better what's happening in your life. And then, if you want to get all this in your cup, you need to develop this skill, not just for deep personal use, but to create something big and constructive with it. Because somehow, well, there's no other way. It just, all living things live and grow. They need to grow. Otherwise, I don't know. It's like you're there. You drive the latest model car just to the bakery and only to the bakery, nowhere else. So it's kind of, well, nothing. So if you don't want to develop this skill further to help people, then basically you can ponder this until you're an old man. Maybe you don't even need it.
How about we do this for our subscribers? Let's start with the basics since many probably haven't seen the previous parts. Our broadcast and understanding what the information field is. Many just came in wondering what it's all about.
The information field is essentially information that is everywhere. It is always being formed. The fingerprint originally exists, was, will be, and it forms with you. It's actually an independent life that is always around the person and his thoughts, his mental plane. Sometimes, if he really tunes in, sometimes it feels right. With this question of motivation, for example, are you ready to understand, looking at a person, that he doesn't think very highly of you? I remembered about my father-in-law today, who looks at me and I am reading my thoughts, thinking like, what did his son find in me? And you kind of have to keep this good name with a bad anniversary, but you're just watching this and getting rid of it. We'll fill in the second point later about being neutral. But I mean, you have to be prepared for everything. If it opens up, you might see the things that we might hear or feel, the things we wouldn't want to see, hear, or feel. And how ready are you for this?
Interesting. Well, we should probably start with the next questions. What do we need to do in general? For those who really wanted it. I remember, let me give you an example. I remember the prosperous years. Well, I am really interested in this topic. It's always shrouded in such mystery, and people are naturally very curious. And I remember stumbling upon this book, The School of Advanced Energetic Development. I think it was called the Dare School, Verestigen, I think. To not alter memory. In St. Petersburg, there were such scientists who studied the development of such abilities in people. And one of such abilities was, well, they described it in detail and had training, like, for example, seeing your own energy field to focus and look. There hasn't been enough time yet, but I had some kind of the things there. What I saw a little yesterday, just about you're talking specifically about the informational field of energy upon closer examination, but I haven't developed it further than that because here you definitely need persistence and a strong desire.
Yes, besides the desire, there's also this thing I'll talk about. It's about neutrality, the same neutrality I always mention. You have to be extremely neutral about everything that happens. Something like this building itself. This energy we always talk about that surround you is naturally tuned to be in constructive contact with you. It's totally neutral, like parents who genuinely love everyone, but everyone is different. And your task is to tune yourself, to some kind of, so basically even to keep a bit of track inside yourself, for example, by asking yourself what is bothering me, for instance. What stops me, for example, from developing abilities or noticing something there? You can actually feel it inside your body. Well, maybe it's an aversion to something, or a categorical statement about some area of life. I remember, I think I'll just give you an example now. I've always had some inclinations for it. We're talking exactly about some kind of inner feelings. When it becomes a part of you, it's clear that emotions are involved. You are a living person. You might step on someone's toe at that moment. You can feel any emotions and you can say whatever you want about it. But your inner tone must be as neutral as possible. I remember when my first degree was in law and we had 60 people in the session, 2 groups. We had a test about, let's say, how to tell typical teachers. One of the questions was that, well, if you have to defend a rapist, a murderer, it's sort of like they're basically a murderer of a little child. Will you study it as a public defender? And the public defender is basically required for everyone. That's the profession, First of all, this is a kind of profession. And secondly, it's not really a profession of a lawyer or attorney to find out if a person is guilty or not, as long as the person, we have the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, he is basically innocent. So it turned out when they checked the test, I was the only one out of 60 people who agreed with this principle. Once a person is legally assigned as a guardian, then I agree if it's legal. So I turned out to be the only person out of 60. Agree to this action. Well, that is, you do not project your emotional attitude onto it. Being someone to many things, you just kind of observe because many things can open up to you. Some kind of informational plans if you manage to using it, very pretentious or to harm someone or to harm or for something. When they tried to pursue some kind of personal gain, it quickly fell apart. So basically, it's like you've read a newspaper, got the information, and just moved on. The only thing you can do is take away some constructive idea from there about how you can only use all that information that came to you creatively or not use it at all. Because if you just like, once again, I'll repeat, using something solely for personal gain, like let's say, having categorical judgments such as this guy with 3 is a good person, you kind of don't get much at the start. We basically get almost nothing. Because the connection to this stream, which is inherently as neutral as possible, doesn't really exist. Saying it in such a technical communicative language. Communication with that informational field just either won't exist or will be extremely distorted. That she will somehow adapt to you to this particular some internal situational this somehow taking a pretentious position, somehow getting distorted, right?
Nothing happened. Well, yes, of course, you wouldn't be in such a Zen state where you're neutral to everything, right? You just observe, you just contemplate, and
It's not necessarily meditation, just like, I don't know, just somehow you detach from any particular judgment, like you're looking at your mother-in-law and people can clearly sense that he treats you like crap. Well, moderately like crap. I mean, well, you are a human being and you're always trying to distance, push away your human side. That's nonsense. It's his right, he can feel that way. That's freedom of will. It's his right, he can feel that way. Treat you exactly the way you want to be treated. You cannot interfere in this process. Goodbye.
all right. So what was the question again? What a person really needs? Well, first, you need to be in this kind of state. Yes, I mean, calmness and such a non-judgmental attitude. Yeah. And what else? What
All right,
else?
let's move on to the next care routine now. It's exactly faith, you understand. The belief that you can do it, that you are doing it, that you have great desire and faith. Because faith is basically like, it didn't sound primitive, it's just the energy that allows you to do all this. I remember, first of all, you always gave these, some speeches that you just see. It's like you're asking again. Well, I've already stopped asking again. Or, for example, you just already understand what you saw. You sit across from someone and they have, I think I've already talked about this. On the etheric and mental planes, ears look black, so that means, well, then you find out that one ear of his can't hear. It's like this one ear can't hear. The one that can't hear, it looks like something dark, like it's smeared with soot. Well, when you see it for the first time, I think the first time I'll make it on the hook. And it starts, well, somehow like that. I saw it and I remember blinking my eyes excessively because I didn't understand what's that? How? I just didn't know. I knew that he had some ear issues, like can't hear. He's got problems with my ear, but what is it? I couldn't figure it out. So your job is to believe that what you see is not what you imagine, because there's a difference between fantasy and what you actually see. There's a significant difference, and it's kind of like some, simultaneously like a picture flashing, but in reality, even if you wanted to, you wouldn't have time to fantasize about such things for Muscovites. Because it's impossible. They come very quickly, exactly like this big cluster at once. The image appeared immediately. And when you imagine, you kind of do it in a way, well, everyone knows how to imagine, really.
But it's gradual, like the imagination slowly unfolds,
It's
kind
like
of like.
inside you want to, for example, I'd like to see it this way. But here you kind of see the picture as you remember it. As far as I remember, at my current husband's fazenda, they've owned it for 40 years now. So they took her in when he was a little over 10 years old. And you kind of like, I really got into it and we can start playing. And the informational layers to take off, like suddenly I wanted to know how he was like as a little one. First of all, I saw that he was fair-haired and now he's much stronger. I don't know, when he was little and light-haired, he used to say young. And I always saw him with something in his hands, meaning he moves around that field, always holding something. It's like at first you don't understand, and sometimes maybe you even want to, well, I mean, it's some kind of weird story, because why does the kid always have something in his hands, either a stick or some kind of twig? You don't see like this image without a stick. And it's like sometimes it even fades away in me. I had a thought, maybe just remove it. I'll remove this stick now. There you go. And she just wouldn't clean up. I couldn't stand it. So I went up to him and said, when you were little, why was everything in your hands? I used to be a curious boy, always had a stick in my hands, a little twig I used to fiddle with, like a little blade of grass. Ah, there it is. Oh, it's an image that in fact doesn't move by its own will.
Listen, we have a question from Valentina. Valentina, today's topic is about esotericists. We talk about the informational field surrounding a person. Natalia is a professional psychologist and she has a certain insight, I would say. and she can see these information fields. And now we're discussing, I think, for many and how to develop such vision skills and whether one should even bother developing it. To have the ability to influence your reality, your surroundings, the ability to understand the reasons behind various events happening around a person, basically growing spiritually, right? That's how I would put it.
Yes, it allows you to live in a non-flat space, like on some straight 3D codec, I don't know. You can really see it, you can really feel it flying. The consequences, how they are formed, like for example, how these events are laid out. Sometimes it's clear that there are several possible outcomes. One might fall apart, but it's not always straightforward. Exactly, and specifically, especially right when in some event with many people involved, you just can't see it. You can't actually see one specific outcome in advance. You might see more situationally possible, but that's just another option.
Yeah, well, this is a very, I would say, very useful tool if you have certain skills from a psychological point of view. Yeah, and also possess such skills and vision. Combine all of this, and this is everything. I think that allows you to solve problems most quickly and effectively, both your own and those of your patients, right?
Yeah, and actually even personal and impersonal like that. And the last thing, the final point, right now we're dealing with the process I wanted to talk about. It's about doubt. Doubt and then emotional involvement. Firstly, the energy of doubt will just disconnect you from the whole process when you are always, am I seeing this or feeling it? You just have to tune yourself somehow and give yourself to the process. Because, well, here's a specific example. Look at my cat. He does this. Upset stomach. And I kind of start to get involved, in Kozik, and I can't understand why he has digestive issues. Because I just don't understand what's happening. Well, because I sort of a real person, somehow I got too attached to this cat that walks around here. And somehow, I guess I'm just worried quite a bit, need to step back a bit, get into a neutral mode, well, to somehow see the information I need to complete this.
Yeah, interesting. So actually, it's about what might prevent someone from entering this state.
Well, yeah, because with the comparison, it will realistically and physically envelop you, like this dense thing. It may look like some kind of net that will actually cut you off from these informational planes.
Well, maybe I think it's worth reminding the audience that we discussed the topic of information fields and why do we even need this? Well, specifically for personal development.
First of all, yes, of course, because primarily it was about personal development and harmonize your personal life simply to develop, in essence, your own intuition. Because nobody but yourself knows where you should go. Where should he go? What should he do? What would he really want if he looks inside himself and immerses himself? Do you hear? Do you hear? You will find many, many answers there, in fact, in a future scenario from the possible ones.
Yeah, well, I think our viewers might need a reminder. Maybe some aren't aware, but the information field contains all of a person's history. That
Yes,
is not
yes.
just their current life, but past lives too,
That's wonderful
the
because
karmic
Tertitim
values
is
and
just,
influences.
it just happened in practice somehow. I first studied just classical psychology. I think people come to see you and so you work with them and ask about the reason. And right off the bat, they defensively say, the reason is that extra story and A person is, an energetic informational cluster. It's much bigger and wider than his story today, the story of his current identity.
Well, yes. And from my experience, quite often the issue lies not even in this life. She can reach quite far. Well, from past lives, quite a long way.
Yeah, it happens quite often, especially in those, annoying and unclear situations. It's something big that bothers him or some relationship issues that you can't handle. Or I don't know, some health issues or something else big where you can't even find an obvious reason for what's happening. So that's
Dear
why
viewers, we are talking about very important things, more important than our current problems, as far as I understand, because our current problems are a consequence of past
in
experiences.
most cases, these are often consequences of your choices, but much earlier choices. You just live through it. The consequences of your choices, you have already made them by doing those actions and accordingly those deeds. It's just my to-do list, I made this or that choice guided by something I don't really know what at that moment. And it's the consequences of all this that you just live through in experience. That thing sort of a time-bound choice and the consequences. You live with them here, and that's how a person is created. It feels kind of unfair, unethical, wrong. And this ability to sometimes see, sense, and feel can add logic to this process.
Interesting. Yep. Well, I probably won't ask you to give examples. You've already given plenty of examples of successful development of perception. If you want, you can share an interesting one.
I need to find time for
Yeah,
myself.
for example, how your ability helps life
Can you
helps.
read the question? It's kind of
Oh,
lengthy. I
yes. This
can't.
girl wrote, Good evening, Fimido, right now. Hello, if God sends heavy trials and the person ends their life because they can't endure it, the soul will return. They will be sent the same trials again each time. That is, it implies that if a person ends their life, well, I believe in reincarnation and also in the immortality of the soul. And if he did not live such a life and ended his life by suicide, then who keeps asking about it? Again and again, he ends up with his life.
It's the thing that when you end your life by suicide, there's this interesting thing that you don't appreciate the gift of life. I just remembered when I was relatively far from having all this open up for me. I often felt like I was just did you drown in the sea of unrequited love? I still have a rain cloud over me. I'm not admiring the water. I think I can quite often get a gulp, like it's somehow like that. And I do have a fear of water, for example. I totally felt that moment when I remember it clearly. Either I woke up or something like that happened. It was in the background of some romantic experiences. For me, it was some kind of retrospective story. I'd say it as a big story about the value of life. Well, for example, if we look, well, I can speak specifically about my case. Yes, like I remember and then I felt how easily I went through this moment. Go and like accumulate, like physically, really physically. Remember, we were recording videos together. Just use it, just apply it, just use it. And that I was talking about, that now I have the capability to create such serious programs like, though not strongly expressed, it is a children's nickname that is quite obvious. And I once had this kind of retrospective the story happened. I got up right in the morning and I remember I get it every day when you step outside and it's icy. My God, it's like you live this value every day. You feel the value of what you once didn't appreciate. Well, there you go. You took it well. I remember how it was for me. I remember how nice and even it felt to walk on the sand, like I could do anything. But here, you can't even step outside the building and you literally can't leave the building because it's so slippery. And I was like, I really felt how whole it was, what I had that I didn't appreciate. And well, so anyway, that's how I evaluate it now.
Yes, I also wanted to add something about suicide. Well, I just understood the question. The karma is perceived very straightforwardly. What if you died there? Then in your next life, you'll have the same thing there again. But life is just so multifaceted. And souls are like, I think they come up with complex stories. On the contrary, you might end up being nobody. The essence of reincarnation, as I understand it, is for a person to gain new experiences and reassess past experiences. On the other hand, roughly
Well,
speaking,
it turns out, experience kind of immerses you in a similar context from a completely different perspective. Right, some important and necessary context for you, but a little bit from a different angle. To look at all the things you did or what led you to make that decision, but from a slightly different angle. Often it's a much softer angle, really. See
no.
you later.
Well, it might be something like you appearing, for example, as a parental child who resurfaced, or something like that.
Well, yeah, I think I was talking about this in my last video that there are cases, yes, I know one, a young man who suffers a lot because he's been suffering emotionally for maybe about 30 years or so, not more than that, around that much, because I don't remember, it was either mom or stepdad, or no, it was stepdad. So someone put out cigarettes on him, and mom really put them out. I mean, he had statistically a difficult childhood, precisely with your physical ability. So mom was watching it, and naturally he feels really sorry for it, and you really sympathize with him because it's impossible not to feel for a child who's been bullied. But still, I was simply asked, I remember, to analyze this case, and I got upset about it. That comrade has repeatedly been cruel to his own children. He just cut off their hands for stealing. Well, just like that. He was so obsessed with theft that he chopped his own uncle's hands off for stealing. Such a vivid picture of Max Plouffe. Obviously, you feel sympathy for him now because he doesn't remember or know this, but he is actually living through the consequences of his own choices. And the fact that I put out my cigarettes on my own body, maybe that's even softer than having your hands chopped off. So, however monstrous the context may seem to you today, actually, very often it's much softer. You just immerse yourself in a similar kind of state, emotionally similar state.
So, introducing our today's topic, an informational introduction, the ability to recognize and read the informational field, which allows getting to the root causes of the autological first cause is definitely tough, but these are the root causes of today's situation. Because usually we even discussed among ourselves that people turn to psychologists or start studying how to develop spiritually, come to God, and so on and so forth, to religion. In misery, right now, many people on earth suffer for various reasons, usually not even because of physical problems, but due to spiritual ones. Well, out of spiritual torment, rhetorical speaking, right? So, our topic for today is how to develop these skills, even at a basic level, so that learn to understand your initial problems.
It's important because it's important, we're coming back to that topic we talked about yesterday, that feeling your unity is important, for example, with the freedom of energy, which she's genuinely amazing, creative, always ready to engage with you, to collaborate constructively with you, collaboration with you, and with you just like with everyone else. So it's not really prominent, some do better, some do worse. I tune in to connect with you, but not with him. But it all depends on your own desire for the most part. That's why, this feeling of being part of something bigger on a larger informational scale, to a world that's bigger actually than your own judgments, your own desires. That's important, of course. And it kind of maybe, allows for that. Somehow distance yourself from your own suffering.
Yes, it's so very interesting. Listen, so we've basically covered all the key points
Friends,
of
thanks
today's
for watching.
discussion. Go ahead and wrap it up. You can tell this topic point by point now. Just list what needs to be done. And who
Black and
needs
white,
this? Who
it's
needs
motivation.
this?
You must understand why you need it, why you want it, and what the long-term perspective is. So where will she develop when, how will you put your own life in order? Obviously, first of all, you want to develop your own activities or maybe have a broader outlook. But then you need to adjust yourself to a neutral perception of whatever you don't see here. Because you always see only a part of a person's story. You see his present, but you don't know what awaits him or who he was or will become. Actually, to space, it does not matter when, well, sort of, we'll move forward, in some spiritual growth either today or tomorrow or 1,000 years from now. So everything that you don't see, you see only a piece of
That's
its
it.
current
Starship.
story. So certain events you need to remain as neutral as possible about it. This neutral state will give you the opportunity to actually connect with all this informational plan. Plus, you need to have faith that you're actually seeing what you're seeing, not just imagining it. Here I talked about how fantasy differs from movies, because vision, or sensation, it comes as a film project clustered as it is. She takes it and comes over. By the way, she doesn't ask how you arrange things. It doesn't build up inside you. It just sort of falls on you immediately. Or you can, I don't know. And of course, you need to let go of doubt. Because doubt is the same energy that will bring you down from each result. That's the gist of it. Really brief.
Everything is very simple, dear viewers, so keep practicing. Those who strive will achieve it. I will strive for it too.
We can test you on something later. You can practice, and then it's encouraging. I think you see, feel, and understand a lot. You just think it's all in your head. And if you even remove the thought that it just seems to you and try to search, I think you will see and understand a lot.
Well, yeah, but you see, more developed on such a sensitive level, more aware, feeling the
Thanks for the
world of
subtitles.
Asia.
On a sensory level, you can build a relationship with your body, what does it mean if the body feels something, or if I feel something? What does it mean? So can you somehow gather feedback and then do something like, then give feedback? Now, how did it go for you? We can also make a video on this topic.
This is, of course, interesting. Okay, fine. I think we're wrapping up today.
No need. I think we need to structure the cocktail more. Let's go. If there are, I don't know, subscribers, or you have some additional questions on this topic, we can actually make a separate video just head towards them.
By the way, those who are watching the live stream can leave comments, questions, share, or subscribe to profile banner on YouTube channel, and you can ask questions there. Natalya will answer all the questions. Thanks, Evra and Natasha. Thanks for the show. And thanks to you too for the info. Bye. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.